Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the EduHaven course on AP Biology. If you're ready to succeed, let's go. The plasma membrane is the membrane that separates the inside and the outside of the cell. The main component of the plasma membrane is the phospholipids. Phospholipids, as you recall, are made up of two nonpolar tails and a polar head. When placed in water, a typical cell environment, the polar heads go on the outside touching the water because they're hydrophilic, and the tails, which are hydrophobic, go on the inside because they're afraid of water, and they form a sort of bilayer, the phospholipid bilayer. An important thing to mention about the hydrophobic and hydrophilic nature of phospholipids is that they can change orientation. This change in orientation usually occurs in different substances. Another part of the plasma membrane is cholesterol. Cholesterol, along with the number of saturated fatty acid tails in the plasma membrane, determine the fluidity. Simply put, this is just how much the fatty acid tails can move. When there's more fatty acid tails, they're constricted and they can't move that much, but when there's more, they can flow around. Another part of the cell membrane are the embedded proteins. These proteins are kind of lodged inside of the cell membrane, and they can be both hydrophilic and hydrophobic. The way you determine which part of the protein is hydrophilic and which part is hydrophobic is where the protein is located. If part of the protein is inside the cell membrane, then it's hydrophobic. And if another part of the protein is outside the cell membrane, it's hydrophilic. Just a reminder, hydrophobic means that they're nonpolar, and hydrophilic means that they're polar. The last component of the cell membrane is the glycocalyx, which consists of glycoproteins and glycolipids. While the specifics of these aren't really necessary, you need to know that they're used to tag cells to see if a cell belongs to you or doesn't. If a pathogen, like a virus, comes into your body will recognize that the glycocalyx isn't the same as your glycocalyx, and it'll try to fight it off.
Since the cell membrane has so many components, it can be called the fluid mosaic model. This is because the diagram is a mosaic of all the components of the cell membrane, and the membrane is actually fluid. Fluidity means that the phospholipids float around and move and change positions.
A major characteristic of the cell membrane is that it's selectively permeable. This means that certain characteristics allow substances to permeate through the membrane or go through it, while certain characteristics do not allow this. But what are the characteristics? Alright, fine, you got me. Molecules that are small and nonpolar, like glucose, are able to pass through the cell membrane. This is because the fatty acid tails on the inside of the cell membrane are nonpolar, and they accept the molecules. Additionally, large or polar molecules can't pass through the membrane. This includes substances like starch, water, and ions. About a minute ago, I told you that the last component of the cell membrane was a glycocalyx. However, this was a lie. Another component of the cell membrane are integral proteins, which are proteins that run through the cell membrane. These proteins are useful because it allows certain molecules that can't typically pass through the cell membrane to pass. The best example for an integral protein is aquaporins, which allow water to pass through the cell membrane. However, typically, water does go through the cell membrane, only the aquaporins facilitate the movement. Another integral protein are ion channels, which allow ions to go through the cell membrane. Lastly, in plant cells, there are cell walls, which give structure to plant cells. These are needed because plants don't have bones like animals do. And that's all for the cell membrane. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to check out the next episode of the EduHaven course on AP Biology, click right here. If you want to check out another EduHaven course, click right here. Thanks, and I hope you succeed.